everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of KittyCatGO Live, where we discuss various topics related to traveling and adventuring with your cat. I'm your host, Emily Hall, and tonight we'll be chatting about cats and water sports, specifically kayaking and canoeing. If you're watching with us tonight, be sure to say hello in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. Questions are encouraged along the way as well. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive in. Our special guest for the evening is Gabrielle Vachon. Gabrielle and her cat Munchkin are pro paddlers and go kayaking on a regular basis. She's here with us tonight to share all of her training tips and tricks for making your next water adventure a success. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her on. Hey, Gabrielle.
Hi.
Thanks so much for being here tonight. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and Munchkin? How'd you guys get started adventuring, and how old is Munchkin? How long has he been an adventure cat?
Yeah, so I'm a certified animal health technician. So basically what that means in a nutshell, it's kind of like a nurse for pets. So I've been working with animals for over a decade and working in a hospital. Basically, Munchkin came into my life. He was about 3 days old. I walked in and there was 2 little baby orphan kittens in an incubator. I remember my colleague looking at me and saying, "Don't feel like you have to," but obviously I was the one who ended up taking them home and fostering them. I had seen some other adventure cats, like on the dodo, like Bolt and Keel, and I'd always had it in the back of my head that this is something I wanted to do with my next cat. Working in the field, I do see the pros and cons. I see, cats coming in injured, cats that are left to free roam, But at the same time, I know that I wanted him mentally stimulated and physically active. So that just seemed like the best of both worlds to me, for him to be harnessed and leash trained and to be able to take him places. So when we ended up foster failing with little baby Munchkin, I knew, that I wanted to get into sports with him. So that's something that I did start at a very early age with Munchkin, which it definitely helped because he was really well socialized. And of course we got the harness on him at a young age. But I also know a lot of people with older cats, and everyone always says, "Oh, well, it's because you started him young." And I'm like, no, I'm sure it helped, but you can definitely start at any age.
Yeah, for sure. So I know you guys do all kinds of adventures, but you're also really big kayakers. Do you do any other water sports like canoeing and paddleboarding as well, or are you guys pretty much just kayakers?
So we mostly kayak because I have a kayak, so it's just easier that way. We have tried the stand-up paddleboard during one of the challenges, and that was really fun, except the conditions weren't the best that day, and I've still been wanting to go back out and try it. I think that stand-up paddleboarding would be maybe more ideal for Munchkin because the surface is more flat and larger, so he would have more of a flat surface to stand on. Haven't taken him canoeing yet. Also was in the plans. Unfortunately, COVID kind of got in the way of that for this year because we did have a big long weekend camping trip planned, but unfortunately we weren't able to do that. And he has been on our motorboat twice. So we're still working on that. I'd like to desensitize him more. And there's a lot to take into consideration, of course. The weather always has to kind of cooperate with us on the days that we want to work with him. So I haven't done a lot of work with him on the motorboat yet, but that's definitely something that we'd like to pursue a little bit more. Yeah,
that's awesome. I totally understand the whole, you kayak because that's what you have. We have a canoe, and so that's what we do. I've gone kayaking with Kylo before when we were on vacation. We did a kayak rental and did that, but here at home, canoe is what we have, so that's what we do. I would love to try the paddleboarding though. I haven't done that myself yet, so something on the to-do list. So how did you get Munchkin started kayaking? Can you walk us through your training process?
Yeah. So, like I said, I had it in the back of my head. I knew this is something that I wanted him to be able to do. I kayaked with my dog, Cowboy. I'd seen other cats already kind of kayaking, so I knew that this was a possibility. So I started off desensitizing him first to the kayak. So, really breaking it down. Some cats might be a little bit nervous about the water. Also keep in mind that when the boat is on the water, you have the wind, you have the waves, the boat might be moving. So really the first step was to get him just on the kayak with no other distractions. So I pulled the kayak out just into the backyard and used some lure training to get him to go onto the kayak, always of his own free will. So whenever he got on the kayak, luring him, but of his own free will, he gets on the kayak, he gets a food reward. And it didn't take long for him to realize that as soon as he would get on or in the kayak, he would get food. So then as soon as I would pull the kayak out of storage, he would come running and jump on the kayak and sit and wait for his treat. So that's how he started to really like kayaking and enjoy the kayak. I also have a little cart for my kayak because we live really close to the lake, which is nice. So it's just like a tiny little cart with two wheels. I strap the kayak on to the cart, and that way I can wheel it around. So I was able to sort of start getting the kayak to move, but controlled.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than just putting it on the lake, we just kind of worked with rolling it around in the backyard with Munchkin on it. And whenever he would stay on the kayak while it was in movement, he would get food reward again for that. So that went really well. And he progressed pretty quickly through those stages. I should also mention that he's naturally very curious. He's not very skittish. So for some cats, the first step might be just like with backpack training, just letting them investigate it and just kind of rewarding them for being around it, because otherwise it might be like, what is this big new thing?
Yeah.
So each cat is different. With him, we kind of skip that because naturally he's like really curious about any new thing that we bring in. So once we have him on the kayak and he's sitting nicely and I'm able to roll the kayak around the backyard with no problem, then we decided, okay, now it's time to put it in the lake. And he's already been to the lake several times. He's never been on the water, but we've taken walks and he's been to the lake. And so when I put him on the kayak, I know that he's comfortable being near water. So that's another thing, depending on the cat, that you might need to break that down another step and really just work with them being near water before actually putting them on a kayak.
Yeah.
So again, like baby steps, it was really controlled environment. So we tied the kayak down to the dock so that it wouldn't go anywhere and it wouldn't move as he loaded on. And just had him get, like just what we did at the backyard, got him to get on, gave him a treat, let him get off, repeated that a couple times. And on a positive note, bring him home, no kayaking that day. And then every time we would go out, we would aim to go in increments of like 5 minutes. So we would paddle, for about 5 minutes. And then as long as he was taking treats, I knew that he was comfortable enough to keep working with them. So about 5 minutes was our very first paddle experience. And then we just kind of kept going from there, 5 more minutes every time. Always super happy, always giving me little happy trills, always taking treats. So I know that, he's enjoying it. I'm not pushing him too much. And until a couple months later, we did like a half-day kayak trip with portages, which is where you get out of the lake and you walk across a body of land to get back in like another lake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was like a proud parent moment, because you could just see like it had the tail up with the little happy, question mark.
Yeah.
Onto it and giving me little happy trills and like running along the trail when we were doing portages. So it definitely paid off, that we did it so slowly, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So out of that, I have 2 more questions. So in your training process, are you clicker training or is it just like positive reward kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely. I do clicker training for everything.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I know I've seen some videos of you doing, like, getting him to jump up on the kayak on the, well, like riding down the road. I've seen you post the videos of him riding on your little cart on the kayak, like to the lake. It's so cute. I love those. So you mentioned you started with just like 5-minute increments. What's the longest outing that Munchkin has had on the kayak?
The longest outing that we've had so far was about 4 hours.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
With breaks, that was one of those times that we had the portages.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of times where we had breaks. And even that, we had set out, knowing that like we might just kind of cancel everything and turn around. And there was a lot of different spots. It was a nice narrow stream, and there was a lot of different spots for portages. So there was a lot of spots where we could kind of like abandon our plan,
Mm-hmm.
if you will, if ever we felt like it wasn't going well or he wasn't comfortable.
Yes, and that's something like that we always have to have in the back of our heads when we take our cats out, knowing that things might not go according to plan and you need to either cancel or adjust or whatever. Cool. So for those of you that are watching, let us know in the comments if you are kayakers or canoers. We'd love to hear from you, and if your cat enjoys it, or if maybe you haven't tried it yet, but you're hoping to. We'd love to know where you're all at with everything. So Gabrielle, would you say the training process that you just outlined for Munchkin kayaking, would it be a similar training process for canoeing or paddleboarding for those who might want to try that? Would you recommend like the same process?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would work for any water sport. The only difference I would say is that, like I said, the stand-up paddleboard, there's a lot more space. Same thing with the canoe. If you're going for like a canoe camping trip, then you probably know you've got lots of storage space in the canoe. Kayaks, depending on the type of kayak you have the cockpit, which is where you're seated. And then you have kind of like the front and the back of the kayak. And depending on how big the kayak is, there might not be a lot of space where you're sitting.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, in a canoe or on a stand-up paddleboard, you probably also have the option to bring your cat's backpack, whereas it doesn't fit in my kayak.
Okay.
So that wasn't really, for us, that wasn't really an option. His backpack wouldn't really fit comfortably anywhere on the kayak in a safe manner. So if you have a cat who's already backpack trained, you could potentially put the backpack on the stand-up paddleboard or in the canoe and have them load into their backpack first, or as well as once you're out on the water.
Yeah, that's what we usually do when we take the cats canoeing, because like you mentioned, I mean, we have it's really like a 3-person canoe. It's pretty big. And me and my husband go, and we always bring the backpacks, and that's how we load them onto the canoe, take the cats in the backpack, sit it on the floor of the canoe, and then let them out once we're like out on the water already. I didn't realize that a backpack wouldn't fit on some kayaks. So what do you do like for shade?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. You're definitely more exposed to the elements than in other types of cat exploring. So it kind of depends on the spot. You want to ideally pick the smallest lake possible. The more open the lake, of course, the more exposed you are to the wind and to the sun. Usually what we do is we go very early in the morning or later on in the evening. And when the sun is really low, even on the lake where we are, which is a little bit of a bigger lake than I like, you're still going to have shade along the shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
So usually I'll just try to paddle along the shoreline as much as possible. sometimes, you know, we can't help it. We're in the sun for a little bit, but we, you know, as long as we're going early in the morning, usually the sun's not too strong at that time. So even if we do have some periods where we're exposed to the sun, usually it's not so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like our operation too, is stay close to the shoreline, because it's, I mean, down here in Georgia, it's usually pretty hot, and trying to avoid that direct sunlight for sure for both the humans and the cats. I also, for those of you that are able to bring your backpack or something, what I do, I have their backpack available so they can go into it if they want, and I have like a towel that I can drape over the canoe, like an area of the canoe, so they can get underneath that to get some break from the sun. So that usually works pretty well for us.
In the cockpit of the kayak, if your cat goes like underneath, like to where your feet are, they can get some shade there too usually. But Munchkin has no interest in being in the kayak. He wants to be on the kayak.
Yes, I understand. And with the canoe, we have the issue, like, because it's not flat like kayaks are, you know, it's like got the high sides. So for the cats to be able to see, we have like a wooden board that we've cut to fit over the front of the canoe. So that way they have like a flat landing place that they can sit at the front and be able to see everything. Because yeah, otherwise they'd just be down in the boat and like trying to peek over the edge. It's interesting to hear like all the ways everyone, like, I guess the little hacks that we've all come up with to make things work for ourselves.
Yeah.
So we've got some people chiming in the comments saying that we've got Oakley who kayaks and paddle boards on the lake, which is awesome. And looks like people who aren't ready to quite try it yet, but they're interested to hear our tips. First question, Amelia would like to know, do you use any kind of sunscreen for Munchkin? I personally have never done that, but do you have a pet safe sunscreen that you use?
So I don't have one that I use on Munchkin. Like I said, we usually go out early in the morning, late in the evening. Typically we try to go when the sun's not going to be super strong. It's really hard to find sunscreen that is cat safe. I've had people, clients ask me for their patients at work. So I did do a little bit of research actually. And although none of our distributors actually sell it, I found there is a product. It's from a company called Dermoscent, which is it's a veterinary line of dermatologic products. And they have a sunscreen that is safe for cats and dogs, and it's called Sun Free. So I haven't tried it myself. I've never had an issue with Munchkin. I've never had a cat come in with a sunburn either. It's not something that here in Montreal that I think that we have to worry about as much as some other places, like in the States. But at least that is a product that I think would be trustworthy for cats.
Yeah, do you know if it's available in the United States?
I'm pretty sure it is a US company actually.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I'll have to look that up because I know that's a question that comes up a lot just in the adventuring community, and no one really ever has a good answer because so many of the sunscreens have whatever the, what is it, zinc oxide maybe? Or?
Yeah, zinc oxide, which can be toxic.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's good to know. I'll have to make note of that and see if I can find that around here. So let's see. You talked a little bit about how you desensitized Munchkin to the kayak. Did you have to desensitize him to the water at all? Like, was he scared of being around water or anything like that before you tried kayaking?
No, we were really lucky. He has been fascinated by water pretty much since he was a kitten. He loves to sit on the edge of the bathtub when we're taking a bath. and he'll just drink out of the bathtub while I'm trying to take a bath. He likes to sit in between the two shower curtains if we're having a shower and like try to attack the droplets. So he doesn't really want to get his feet wet, but he's pretty comfortable around water ever since he was really young. And when we would walk him, like I said, we live really close to the lake, so he's been exposed to waterfronts also starting from a young age, and it just never really fazed him. So luckily that's not something that we had to do. We kind of skipped that step.
Yeah, I was kind of lucky with that too. Sophie is pretty fearless, and I didn't have a problem with her. And then Kylo as well. He does pretty well. He doesn't like the ocean, like the waves. If there's a lot of waves and like wind, he's not into that. But as long as the waters are pretty calm, I haven't had to deal with that. So, so Jackie says she's taken her cat Tashi kayaking a few times. She says she'd be nervous about locking her cat in the backpack. I totally agree. I would not let your cat in their backpack or carrier and then close it if you're on a kayak or boat, because like you mentioned, if you capsize, then they would be stuck. So definitely keep backpacks and carriers open so your cat can come in and out as needed. She mentions though that her biggest challenge is staying cool when out on the water. Do you have any specific tips for staying cool when you're out on the water with Munchkin?
If they're really comfortable with the water, you can try to wet them down just a little bit. Like sometimes if I'm not sure, I never go out when it's above 25 degrees Celsius, which I think is like 77 Fahrenheit.
Okay.
And even at that, it's kind of pushing it, and it depends how humid it is that day as well. So usually I set my alarm when we go out like really early, before the sun is too high, before it gets too hot. Like I said, I try to just paddle along the shoreline, but in those cases where we're already out on the water and I think he might be getting warm, I'll just kind of dip my hands in the water and just sort of kind of pet him with my hands. And then I'll head like straight for shore if I have any doubts if maybe he's getting too hot now. And I always give treats, and if for whatever reason he stops taking treats, then it's like, okay, cancel plans, we're going home right now, because he's not happy. If he's not taking treats, it's serious.
Yeah, that's always a good indicator of where your cat's at with everything. I think another thing you can do to stay cool, I mean, to me, I do a lot of the same things to stay cool out on the water as I do like just for hiking. I bring like a cooling scarf. You can get one of those like battery operated handheld fans. Bring some hydrating treats like those churro things, you know, those chewy treats that everyone loves, and even some frozen treats if you have the space to bring like a little lunchbox or something with an ice pack, then you can bring frozen treats along. So yeah, those are the kind of things that we do.
That's a really good idea.
All right, so let's see. Life jackets. Let's talk about that for a second, because I know that's always another common question, finding a cat life jacket, because so many of them are designed for dogs and cats are so much like longer and more slender. Yeah. Have you found a good life jacket that you and Munchkin use?
I found a good life jacket. I don't think I've yet to find the perfect life jacket. I found a better life jacket.
Yeah.
So I have a couple. Hold on. I have some right here. This is what we started out with. This is just like a dog life jacket. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's a little bit short. Sorry. It's not quite as long as I would have liked. It's also really stiff, which a lot of these like typical dog life jackets are. Mm-hmm. So my main issue with the life jacket is that when I would put a life jacket on him, he would flop, like some cats flop when you first put a harness on him, except he's really used to wearing harnesses and jackets and sweaters, and he's never done that before. So it seemed like it was really hindering his mobility. And that was more dangerous than him not wearing a life jacket, because he would be trying to walk back and forth on the kayak and losing his balance because he was having trouble walking with this thing on. So, and we've tried on a lot of different life jackets. We go to the pet stores and we try them on, and he always has pretty much the same reaction.
Yeah.
I've seen, I don't know if it's not Fisher, but I have seen some cats that do water sports and they have, it's a neoprene life jacket.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Outward Hound makes one. The reason that we didn't get the neoprene jacket, although it looks really nice and flexible, is because neoprene is typically used in like wetsuit material, and its purpose is to keep you warm.
Warm, yeah.
So that would be fine for maybe like in the early spring or late fall if we were kayaking. But since, you know, our main concern is keeping them cool when we're out on the water, I didn't want to risk trying that one. So what I found was this one here. Shoot, the name's not on it. It is from Outward Hound. It's a specific model though. I don't know if it's the Kayaking or the Kayaking was the neoprene one. It has a lot of ventilation.
Oh yeah.
So I think on their website, they actually label it as for like strong swimmers, because it doesn't have as much flotation as these stiff ones. But it's super flexible. It has a ton of ventilation. The main reason that I have a life jacket on him, because I know that he can swim, is the handle. I just want something that I can really easily grab him if ever he were to go overboard.
Yeah.
And then a little attachment for the leash as well. So that's what we've found so far that works the best. I'll try to get the exact model for you. I kind of thought it was written on here, but it's not.
Yeah, we have, I think, 2 different Outward Hound ones, and we have like 5 or 6 different life jackets, and I don't know that I would recommend any of the ones that we have. Amelia mentions that Lyra Cat makes one specifically for cats, and that's true. I have personally never tried it, so I can't speak to how well it works, but Lyra Cat does, and I think there's another brand called like Baltic Cat, maybe, and I think they're European, but they do ship to the United States, because I've looked into theirs a lot before. But both the Lyra Cat and I think it's Baltic. I'll have to double check that, but they're pretty expensive, and I just haven't pulled the trigger on that one yet. Yeah, that was the same. I mean, that's why we started off with the cheapy stiff one, because I just didn't want to make that investment without being sure this was something that he was gonna keep doing and enjoy. The only thing I don't love about the Outward Hound is that it is really short. Yes.
Like, it's not really long enough. I don't think it necessarily makes it any less useful. Like, I think it would still provide good flotation. It just could have a bit more coverage.
Yeah, I agree, and that's the issue we have with the ones we have too, is it's too short, and like you said, I put it on Kylo and he just like flops over, you know. But a few people are chiming in the comments and saying they have the Baltic. Looks like two different people, Val and Katie, have the Baltic, and they say that it's worth the money. Okay. So yeah, the Baltic, guys, look into that if you're looking for a life jacket. I will probably pull the trigger on that one eventually. We just don't get out on the canoe enough for me to justify the expense. But that's awesome to know that there are a couple of options out there. Cool. So life jackets. What other kind of gear do you bring besides the life jacket and treats when you go out on the kayak with Munchkin?
So I have my goodie bag here. So whenever I go out on the kayak, I always pack a dry bag. Mm-hmm. you can get these usually at any like mountain hardware store. I got this one at Mountain Equip Co-op. And basically when you roll it up, 1, 2, 3, it's waterproof and it'll float if it falls in.
Yeah, we have one of those too. They're awesome.
Yeah, especially you've done canoe camping as well, or?
No, I haven't done canoe camping. I'm not that extreme yet.
Yeah, so and they come in different sizes too. You can get little ones, or if you want to go on like a big excursion and go canoe kayaking, they have like bigger ones as well.
Yeah.
So I always like to bring a towel. I use like a pack towel, it's like a camp towel, so it folds up to nothing. It's super lightweight, and this is really just in case of emergency. If something were to happen, he fell in, he gets wet, I don't want him to get cold, I can dry him down.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bowl too.
Yep.
Always have my first aid kit on me.
Safety first.
And when I go kayaking, but also any kind of summer activities, I really like, and I don't work for them, but I really like these HydroCare. Oh no, the lighting's no good.
Oh, I see.
Okay, it's from ProPlan Veterinary Supplements called HydroCare. It's basically like a gravy texture, and it's kind of like it's electrolyte fluids.
Cool. I haven't used that before. That's neat.
Because we all know cats don't really drink water,
Yeah.
especially not when they're outside the home or on adventures. And when we've been out for a long day, and especially if we're in the sun, if I'm concerned at all about him being hydrated, I'll just rip one of these open and pour it in the bowl, and usually he'll drink that, even after he's had treats. So that is pretty much it. And then of course I always have my go bag for the cat, which has lots of treats, lots and lots of treats. It actually has a little divider. So I have like high value food treats and regular treats. And I like to bring a target stick just in case I need to lure him somewhere in a specific direction. And I kayak with my clicker on my wrist. So we've been kayaking for 3 years now, I think. And every time we go out, it's a training opportunity, and he gets treats every time. Yeah,
absolutely. I always bring the clicker, like even on hikes and everything too. I'm always like, never want to miss an opportunity for a little training session.
Yeah, exactly.
So what you mentioned that you have like your regular treats and your high value treats. What are the two treats that you use?
So oddly enough, Munchkin doesn't like those lickable tubes.
Oh, okay.
He's really food motivated, but he likes crunchy treats. So high value treats, Temptations. I try not to give him too many because they are like junk food, but if
Yum.
Temptations, and he really likes greenies too. So we have the regular cat greenies, we have the Smart Bite greenies, and then just like as regular treats, we'll use like Royal Canine kind of like gastro treats.
That's funny that the like Temptations are the high value ones. You'd think it would be the other way around, you know?
But I think the first year of his life, I never gave him Temptations because the vet tech in me was like, no, I can't feed that. It's too junk food. And then when we were out, I think we were getting ready for the TV episode that we did, and we were out in the woods walking, and they were filming, and I was like, I really need something to keep his attention with all these cameras and microphones. So I bit the bullet and I got him Temptations.
Hey, our tree is, I feel like it's even worse than that. I take Meow Mix kibble. Is what I mean, I don't feed that to my cats. That's not what they eat, but that's what I use as like their training treats because they're small and like junk food, and they love them.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever your cat really loves. I did a course, a feline behavior course actually, and they suggested doing a buffet. So you take 2 treats and you do like maybe 10 repetitions where you put the 2 treats, you know, like a little bit far apart, and you see which one your cat goes for first. And if 9 times out of 10 he always went for the temptation over the greenie, well, then he probably prefers the temptation.
Yeah.
You can do that with a bunch of different treats and try a bunch of different treats and find out what your cat's, you know, jackpot treat, if you will, is, so that you can kind of have that one on hand for those moments where you really want to reward your cat like strongly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good idea. I'll have to try that just out of curiosity. I would like to know like what my cats would go for. Stephanie says Purina Kitten Chow was a high value treat for her cats. Yeah, definitely let us know in the comments. What treats do you use for your cat training? It's always interesting to hear all the different things everyone uses. You talked a little bit about how you wet Munchkin down when he gets maybe warm or overheated or something. Has he ever jumped in the water? Is he a swimmer?
He has not jumped in the water intentionally. When we went on that long kayak trip, the 4-hour one, and he was really enjoying it. The thing is, he walks from one end of the kayak to the other. Because I had the dog and my boyfriend had Munchkin. So he was, you know, depending on where we were, he was always trying to like see where we were going and check the ducks and make sure that I was still there. And it happened, I think, 3 times that he slipped and fell in. And that's what actually prompted me to finally get him the life jacket, because, you know, cat collars for safety, they're quick release. So seeing that he was on my boyfriend's kayak, he reached in to grab him, grabbed his collar, which then broke. Now he's just in the water swimming with nothing on him. And the current's like taking the kayak further and further away from the cat. And I'm like with the dog in my kayak further back going, grab the cat.
Oh my gosh. Panic.
Yeah, so that was a learning experience.
Yeah.
Hopefully everyone can learn from us and avoid that. But we did discover by accident that Munchkin is a very strong swimmer and that he's not traumatized by being wet.
That's a good discovery.
He didn't enjoy being wet, but he kind of just groomed himself for a few minutes and then continued on as if nothing happened. So
yeah, Kylo is sort of the same. Like, he doesn't mind the water, like it's not traumatizing to him, but he would never choose to go swimming. He swam once before because I was like, I wanted to know if he could swim, you know, so like if something happened and, you know, the canoe tips over or whatever, can my cat swim? And so I put him in the water and he did swim and he did really well, and he came out and just like started bathing himself. He was pretty chill about the whole experience, but it's good to know, have that peace of mind that your cat can swim. I have not tried it with Sophie. Sophie has cerebellar hypoplasia, you know, so she's like wobbly. And so she's my concern. I always make sure she has a life jacket on for sure, because I don't know if she can swim or not. But it is good to know if your cats can swim or not. Gives you some peace of mind. So do you have any other special tips or tricks for someone who might want to get started kayaking or canoeing for the first time?
I would say go kayaking by yourself. I don't recommend kayaking. Kayaking is a really easy sport to learn. I think of the 3, stand-up paddleboarding, there is a little bit of balance involved. Not a ton, you know, it's not hard. Kayaking is probably it's the easiest thing, I think, to do if you're solo, if you don't have a partner to paddle with. You can paddle a canoe by yourself, but it takes a little bit more skill. So it is really easy to pick up kayaking, but you don't want to be in a boat on the water for the first time with your cat. You need to be comfortable, I think, paddling the boat and being on the water. You need to be comfortable directing the boat as well before you start trying to train your cat to go in it. Because you need to be able to control the situation and always keep it a positive experience.
Yeah, that's a good tip, and I hadn't really thought about that before. So yeah, because I know a lot of people. Like I did a poll in the Facebook group, I guess earlier this week, or maybe it was last week. I can't remember when it was. Asking if people kayaked or canoed with their cat before, and a lot of people said that they had never tried it even for themselves yet before. So I think it's definitely worth pointing out to. If you're one of those people, try it by yourself first. That's a great piece of advice. Well, if anybody has any questions, if you're watching with us tonight or even on the replay, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. Those are all the questions I have for tonight. But if anybody has any questions, I can be sure to bring them up. And otherwise, I guess we're gonna start closing things out. So for those of you who might want to follow Gabrielle and Munchkin on social media, you can find them on Instagram, The Feline Adventurer, and on Facebook and YouTube with the same name. I actually have links to drop for those accounts, which I'll do that in the comments. So here is Instagram link. Oh, Stephanie wants to know if they get to see Munchkin. Is he going to make an appearance?
I don't know where he is right now, but I'm sure if I shake his treats, he'll come.
Oh, yeah. Shake those treats.
Hold on one second.
All right, so I just dropped Munchkin's Instagram and YouTube link if anybody wants to find them. I know on YouTube they do some product reviews and training videos. Definitely check them out there. Oh, there he is. Such a good boy.
Buddy, say hi. It's like, where are the rest of those treats?
Give me more treats.
Yeah. Yeah, buddy.
Oh, man. You've got lots of comments here. Oh, so cute. We want Munchkin. He's a hit. He's a celebrity cat. Oh, I love how I was like grabbing your hand to get the treats.
Someone today didn't put the child lock on the pantry and he fed himself supper.
Ah, nice. Very crafty. I always joke with my husband when you have to feed the cats. I'm like, man, when are they going to learn to feed themselves? That would be so nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, unless anyone has any questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. Gabrielle, thank you so much for joining us tonight, for sharing your expertise. I appreciate it. I know that all of our viewers do, and I hope that everyone watching learned something and had some fun. But that's it for tonight. If you have any more questions or want to continue any discussions, be sure to join our Facebook group, KittyCatGO Adventure Team. Our next episode of KittyCatGO Live will be Wednesday, September 8th at 8 p.m. And our guest will be Janet Chan, who is actually here tonight. And we'll be talking about adventuring in the city. So for those of you who whose cats may be a little skittish in the city, which Kylo for sure is, I'll be looking forward to hearing Janet's tips for city adventuring. So mark your calendars for September 8th. And thanks for joining us and hanging out. And we'll catch everybody later. Good night.
Bye.